Hello everybody, it is Alex, Conservative Coin Collector, and I have some fantastic news. I went to the coin shop. Yes, this is a ring that I got at the coin shop. It was $1. I got it for $5 out of the dollar bin. And that's not the coolest thing that I got at the coin shop. I will show you what I got. Let's turn you around here. Don't want to make you too dizzy here. And I got this $half out of change. There was like 50 cents in change that I got amongst some other change, and instead of 2/4, he gave me this $half here. Just nothing special. Bicentennial $half. This I pulled out of a Coinstar. I did a short on it. It's actually quite popular. 3-piece dollars, all different years, and the piece de resistance, if I can actually locate it. This is the piece de resistance. It is silver. It's a world coin. It's a florin from Australia from 1944. Being that I've been such a good customer, I was able to get this from his personal collection. I was able to get a world coin. And I wanted to get a second one, but that one wasn't for sale, so he put it back, and I understood why. If this thing will focus. There we go, added a little more light, made it focus. I can show you this. This coin is not just silver, but it's sterling silver. It's got a picture of King George on it, and it's from Australia. It's a florin from 1944, like I said. Australia, like tons of other countries, have had silver in their coins. Some countries got rid of their silver in 64, 65, 66, all the way up to who knows when. And that's what today's video is going to be about. The history of silver and coins from all across the world. And being there's something like 192 countries, I'm not going to cover all of them. Especially the third world countries that probably don't even have a currency. And I'm sure there's a lot of European countries that use the euro now that have had silver and coins in the past. I might cover a few of those, I'm not sure. But Australia is the one I'm going to cover first. On to the video. 1910, it was mostly British imperial silver coins that circulated in Australia, but the sterling silver era was between 1910 and 1945, and the coin that I had just shown you and the coin you're seeing is made of sterling silver. Following the Coinage Act of 1909, Australia produced its own silver coins, 3 pence, 6-pence, shilling, and a florin, at 92.5% purity. After the 1945 and into 1946, the rise in silver prices of World War II led to the reduction of the silver content to 50%, rather than its 92.5%. And it became 50% silver, 40% copper, 5% zinc, and 5% nickel from 1946 to 1963. In 1966, it was the final coin. It was the 1966 round 50-cent piece. It was the last circulating silver coin containing 80% silver. And due to its high intrinsic metal value, many were either hoarded or melted right away. When it comes to modern numismatics and bullion in Australia, there are circulating coins that are 5, 10, 50, 20, and 50-cent coins, but they shifted to nickel and copper. The Royal Australian Mint and Perth Mint, they produce high purity silver coins for collectors, investors, for those who live in the land down under. A little closer to home in Australia is Canada. my neighbor to the north. Canadian silver coins, they evolved from high purity sterling silver, and it was 92.5%. They did that from 1858 to 1919. To reduce costs after the First World War, silver content was lowered to 80%. And silver became a thing of the past in 1968 due to rising metal costs. They switched to nickel, and silver dollars, they were produced with 80% silver from 1935 to 1967. And with the modern era, circulation coins, just like American coins, just like Australian coins, contain no silver in this modern era. But they do produce high purity 99.99% silver bullion, such as the Maple Leaf series, introduced in 1988. Moving all the way across the globe to New Zealand, New Zealand's currency didn't begin until 1933, because New Zealand had British currency pre-1933. British imperial coins and various foreign coins were legal tender, with the shortages often leading to the use of private tokens. From 1933 to 1946, their coins were 50% silver. It was done to curb the influx of devalued foreign coins. New Zealand introduced its own currency in 1933, and this is when they introduced the half-crown florin, showing 6p and 3p, all containing that 50% silver. Due to high silver prices and the need to recall silver for debt payment, in the 1947, and all subsequent decimal issues switched to copper nickel, eliminating them from circulation. Sterling silver was reserved for commemorations, and it was 0.925%, so again 92.5%. And it was reserved for the 1949 Royal Visit Crown and various proof sets. Today, the New Zealand Mint produces high-quality sterling, 92.5% silver, or 99.9% silver. And these are for collectors and investors, and the same thing with all the other countries. It's for display only. Like the silver rounds I've shown you, America has minted. Over Japan also has had silver coins. They transitioned from the irregular Edo period currency to most notably the machine-struck Dragon Yen that was minted from 1870 to 1914 of the Meiji era, before shifting to base metal coinage in the 20th century. Key periods include the Tokugawa silver, the 1878 to 1897 bimetallic standard, and the 1950s and 60s 10 yen coins. Japan, moving right along to a country that is 2 votes and a pen stroke away from Sharia law, Britain. The coins of Britain have a 2,000-year history from the Celtic to the modern Britannia bullion. Starting around 600 BC and lasted until 1280, the silver penny. It was the primary currency that made a Tower Pound, which later became sterling. The sterling standard was from 1158 to 1920, or an astounding 762 years. Henry II formalized the sterling standard of 92.5% silver and 7.5% copper to improve durability. There was the Hammered Age, circa 600 to 1662. These coins were hand-struck with denominations like the crown, shilling, and groat, introduced over time. The introduction of milled machinery in 1662 was by the Royal Mint made coins harder to forge or clip. Clip meaning clip off an edge, save the shavings, melt them down, and sell the silver. Due to rising prices after World War I, silver content was dropped to 50% in 1920 and removed entirely in 1947, and it was replaced by copper nickel. While silver ceased to circulate, the Royal Mint produces .999 fine silver Britannica coins introduced in 1997 as bullion rather than for daily commerce. Movements of France have a rich silver history. The French silver coins date back 1,200 years, and it has a history starting with the silver lever in 794, evolving from federal issues to standard decimal coinage after the 1795 revolution. Key periods include the 19th century silver francs of the Napoleon and the Latin Monetary Union, ending with the last circulating 5 franc pieces in the early 1960s. Italy's coins go back several hundred years further than France. I would say even 1,000 years further. Rome's first silver coins were likely issued around 326 BC, possibly at Naples, as a response to the need of standardized currency and trade. Fast forward to 91 to 87 BC, Italian allies minted their own silver coins during the rebellion against Rome, sometimes featuring the inscription Italia. Move ahead several hundred years to the Renaissance, several thousand years actually. The rise of large trade required better currency. Milan introduced the testone, approximately 10 grams of silver, in 1474. Venice followed with its own lira in 1578. Post-Civil War, post every war pretty much, but post-World War II is what I think I could say the big war is. After both world wars caused severe inflation, large denomination silver was rare. However, Italy famously issued the 500 lira silver coin starting in the late 1950s. These popular coins, featuring the caravals, were eventually discontinued in 1967 due to the rise of silver costs. Italy, Sweden. Swedish silver coins have a 1,000-long-year history, over a millennium, starting with the Viking Age, which started circa around 800 AD to 1000 AD. Foreign silver coins were common and often cut up and weighed as hex silver from the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Islamic Empire, empires around there. Go to 995 to the 1100s. King Olaf introduced the first national silver penning after a decline in minting coins reappeared in the 12th century. Fast forward to the Vasa era in the 1500s, Gustav I Vasa standardized the currency, introducing daler, modeled on German thalers and ore. Due to copper abundance in the 17th and 18th century, large plate money was used alongside silver coins. In 1776, a major reform established the Riksdaler as the main currency. Moving ahead to 1873, the silver-based krona replaced the Riksdaler. The modern era of silver content in circulation decreased in the 20th century before being phased out completely in favor of base metals in the 1960s. The Austrian Mint. Established in 1194, 12 tons of silver from King Richard the Lionheart's ransom. It has over 800 years of history. The foundation in 1194, Duke Leopold V of Austria used 12 tons of silver paid to free himself from ransoming King Richard the Lionheart to initiate coin production in Vienna. The Maria Theresa Taylor, they started minting it in 1740, and 300 years later, it's still going strong. It's one of the most silver-famous coins in history. The trade coin was used extensively worldwide and is still minted today by the Austrian Mint. Initially located near Hoher Markt, the mint moved several times before settling in its current location in 1834. It became the sole manufacturer of Australian, not Australian coinage in 1918. And following the success of the Gold Philharmonic in 1989, at the Austrian Mint, they introduced the 1 troy ounce .99 fine silver coin in 2008. It's the only European bullion with a value of €1.50. It's highly popular for investment, being it's worth more than €1. Russia has a pretty big silver coin history. It evolved from the 10th century, or the 900s, to the 11th century, with the earliest coins. They were minted to assert statehood, often featuring the prince holding a cross. Skip ahead to the 16th and 17th century, there is wire money. For centuries, Russian commerce used small irregular silver wire kopecks, created by hammering silver wire into blanks and stamping them. Moving ahead to the Imperial Russian silver in the 1700s that lasted until 1917, we have Peter the Great's reform. In 1704, Peter I introduced the world's first decimal monetary system, with 1 ruble equaled 100 kopecks. Imperial rubles, particularly under Nicholas II, were struck in 90% silver. Notable examples include the 300th anniversary of the Romanov dynasty ruble in 1913 and the rare 1825 Constantine ruble. The St. Petersburg Mint was the primary producer, with operations moving during the First World War. Moving to modern Soviet and modern silver, the earliest Soviet silver was following the 1917 revolution. The Bolsheviks initially questioned the need for money, but began minting silver 10, 15, 20, and 50 kopecks and 1 ruble. And they were 90%, or 0.900 fine. By 1924, often using the old imperial era dies. The Soviet Union began issuing large-scale silver commemoratives again in the late 1970s for the 1980 Olympics. And moving right along to the modern times, the Russian Federation continues to issue silver coins, typically as investment pieces or legal tender commemoratives. Moving right along to the other communist hellhole, China. Chinese silver coins evolved from ancient unstandardized ingots, and they were machine struck by the late 19th century. Let's start with the ancient and early imperial, from the pre-Christian era to the 15th century, so BC to AD essentially. Silver existed, but it was not commonly used as a daily currency, functioning more as a store of value but for very large transactions. Going to the Sky era, or the Ming and Qing dynasties, that dynasty lasted from 1368 to 1911. 543 years. The silver ingots called Saiki became standard, particularly for taxes. They were not uniform coins, but rather boat-shaped or weight-pressed, and they had to be weighed and tested for purity during transactions. Moving right along to the foreign influence from the 16th to 19th centuries. Due to a lack of native silver production, China relied on foreign silver, particularly Spanish 8 reals, or Spanish dollars, and later Mexican silver dollars that were commonly used in trade. To combat the influx of foreign currency, the Qing dynasty began producing its own machine-struck silver coins beginning in the 1890s. Most famously, the dragon dollars. These were minted in provinces like Guangdong, Yunnan, and Sichuan. Following the 1911 revolution, many silver coins featured Sun Satyan or Yun Shikai. The silver was replaced by flat currency in the 1930s. Today, Chinese silver is well known for collector items like the Silver Panda coins, introduced in 1983. Moving back to Europe, we have Switzerland. I don't know much about Switzerland, but their flag is a big plus. And pre-1850, they had cities that struck their own varied currency. Moving along to the 1850 Federal Act, the Swiss franc was introduced to standardized currency, replacing cantonal money. The coins closely modeled on the French system, using 90% silver for the 5 franc and 83.5% for others. In 1865, Switzerland joined the Latin Money Union, standardizing silver and later gold coins. Silver was removed from circulated currency due to high bullion value of silver exceeding the normal value between 1968 and 71. And today, Swiss silver coins are often treated as collectibles or bullion with 20 franc commemoratives, regularly released, such as the 2024 Switzerland coin. Norway has a pretty extensive silver history, starting with what Norway is known for, the Vikings. The Viking Age, from circa the 9th to 11th century. The economy was based on silver weight, or bullion, utilizing hex silver, jewelry, and foreign coins, particularly Arabic dirhams and Anglo-Saxon pennies. The early national coinage from 995 to 1387 had the first native silver coins, and they were pennies, minted by Olaf, let's see if I can get this last name here, Tryggvason, Olaf Tryggvason, around 995 AD, mimicking Anglo-Saxon designs. Harold Hardarda, from 1047 to 1066, later established a standard national currency. The early modern era and the union of such from 1387 all the way to 1814 was it's next, and it's during the unions with Denmark currencies including skillings and spekkedaler. The Kongsberg Mint was established in 1686, initially in Christiania or Oslo, to process silver from local mines. Skipping ahead to the 19th and 20th centuries, the krone system. In 1875, Norway joined the Scandinavian Monetary Union, adopting the krone. Silver was heavily used for denominations of the 10, 25, and 50 ore, as well as the 1, 2, and 10 kroner. Unfortunately, silver is no longer in Norwegian currency. The use of silver in circulation decreased, and by 1920, copper nickel officially replaced silver for smaller denominations, which is way earlier than I would have thought, being a lot of these countries stopped using silver in the 1960s. Norway stopped using it 40 years earlier. I covered Sweden and Norway. It only makes sense to cover the third of the countries, Denmark. Danish silver coin history spans well over 1,000 years. It spans from its origins circa 995 to the 1600s. Following the first official coin bearing a king's name, it was minted in Swen Forkbeard around 995, following earlier silver such as Arab dirhams and Anglo-Saxon pennies. The Riksdaler period silver was the primary metal in the systems with this period here. The first krone was introduced in 1619, but the Riksdaler remained dominant until the 19th century. Moving right along to the Krone Monetary Union, in 1873, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway formed the Scandinavian Monetary Union, adopting the gold standard and introducing the krone. After the union ended in 1914, Denmark eventually shifted away from silver for daily currency. By 1960, the 1 krone was changed to copper nickel. By the 1970s, traditional silver was no longer in general circulation. Belgium. Belgian silver coins originate after its 1830 independence. They were initially based on the French franc with standard 5 franc pieces, minted under Leopold I and II. Key developments include the participation in the 1865 Latin Monetary Union, standardizing silver weight, temporary wartime suspension in the final 1948 and 50s, and then issues were replaced with copper nickel. The Netherlands has a huge history of silver, starting with the Dutch Golden Age in the 17th century. The Lion dollar was a major trade coin used internationally, along with early silver guilders. Skipping ahead to Napoleon, the currency was standardized in 1816, between 16 and 17, into a decimal system, following that with the 1 gulden coin. It became a staple, often featuring portraits of King Wilhelm I. In the 20th century, silver 1 gulden and 2.5 gulden coins continued to be minted with a high silver content, though notably through the reign of Queen Wilhelmina. Something tells me King Wilhelm had an ego, naming his daughter Wilhelmina. It reminds me of what George Foreman did to like 5 of his kids, but I digress. World War II and post-silver. World War II spanned during a long time, and during 1942 to 1945, silver coins for the Netherlands were actually minted in the USA, and they were minted in Dover, Philadelphia, and San Francisco to be used after liberation. The last silver 1 gulden coins for circulation were minted in 1967, after which the Netherlands moved to the nickel and other alloys due to rising silver prices. Finland wasn't always independent, and it had its Swedish period between the 16th and 19th century. Silver was primarily used for the metal in coins. including the ore, the mark, and the daler, from 1522, 1536, and 1534 respectively. Going to the Grand Duchy of Finland from 1809 to 1917, it initially used Russian silver rubles. In 1860, the mark was introduced and divided into 100 penny, initially backed by silver before moving to a gold standard. There was independent Finland for 84 years, from 1917 to 2002. The market continued, but high inflation, particularly after the 1930s, saw silver replaced by base metals like copper nickel. And as of today, the market was placed by the euro in 2002. But throughout the 20th century, special silver coins were issued to mark events such as the 10 marka and the 25 marka. Silver in Icelandic coinage goes very far back as well. It goes back to the Viking Age foreign bullion from the 10th to 11th centuries, and into a formal independent currency in 1922. Due to a lack of local silver, the economy relied on imports and trade. Modern Icelandic coins were issued in 1922 following the Scandinavian Monetary Union's collapse, after adopted independent designs in 1946. Spain. Spanish silver coins. It starts with the Real de Plata from 1497 all the way to 1869. Established by the Currency of Audience in 1497 by Ferdinand and Isabella, the silver real became the standard 8 real coin, where the Spanish dollar was largely used for international trade. And that's not the first time you've heard me use the Spanish 8 real coin, because a lot of these countries used it. From the 16th to the 18th centuries, the Princess of 8 was heavily minted in the New World, and they often appeared as regular hand-struck cobs before the introduction of milled coinage in 1732. The 8 real coin was worth 8 reals or 1 ounce of silver, commonly referred to as pieces of 8. Spanish silver became the standard currency in the Americas and the Philippines, and was highly valued in China. It directly influenced the US dollar, and it became associated with the term 2 bits, deriving a quota from a 2 real coin. You know, the shaving a haircut 2 bits, that's where that comes from. The Reales de Plata, Fuerte, high silver coins circulated globally, while in Spain, a lower grade Real de Vellón coin was often used. It was a silver-copper alloy, and those were the colonial versus the domestic coins in the 17th and 18th centuries. By the mid-19th century, the silver real was replaced in 1837. The last silver real was minted in 1869. The piatista was introduced, bringing to an end of the traditional real-based system. Moving on to Spain's neighbor Portugal. Portugal's silver coin history goes all the way back to the medieval period, between the 12th and the 14th centuries. King Alfonso I introduced the dinero and Telha. The coins initially had silver content, which increased in later centuries. The real system between the 15th and 19th centuries was introduced by King Fernando I, and it was around 1380. Portugal used a lot of silver during that age of exploration between the 15th and 17th centuries, including silver-rich copper ore sources. The 1834 400 often worn were issued during the Liberal Wars, and it reflected political and economic changes in the 19th century. The Escudo era was from 1910 to 2002. The Escudo replaced the real after the monarchy fell. Silver was used for circulation, and coins in 1932. The five, it's 2.5, 2.5, and the 10 escudos. The escudo pieces were minted until 5 before silver content was reduced. While the currency changed a couple of nickels, the silver is still used for some commemorative issues in Portugal today. Moving along to my first and only African country, South Africa. Because I'm only covering countries that would be considered developed or first world, and South Africa is the only country in Africa I would consider being developed or first world. The South African silver coin history spans from the 19th century Boer Republic through the British Commonwealth to the modern rand coinage. It goes back to the ZAR from 1874 to 1902. The first silver coins were introduced for shillings, issued under President T.F. Burgers. He started his presidency in 1874, and Paul Kruger from 1892 to 1897. These featured Kruger's portrait and the Czar coat of arms, and they're actually now highly collectible. The Union of South Africa from 1910 to 1960 is the next era. Following the British Commonwealth system, silver, including the 5 shilling coins with the iconic Springbok, were issued, featuring British monarchs. Due to rising silver prices, the silver content reduced from sterling 92.5% to 50% in 1919, and these coins were often called tikkies or 3 pence. In 1961, the rand replaced the pound, leading to a new non-silver decimal series. Silver coins were replaced by nickel in 1965. The South African Mint introduced the 1-ounce silver Currie Grand in 2017 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the gold Currie Grand. They are 99% or 0.999 pure silver and are aimed at collectors following a long tradition of celebrating the South African fauna and heritage on its coinage. The last country I have for you, South Korea. The coins go back to the Goryeo dynasty. The very first coin the Goryeo dynasty used was the Unbayeon. It was a silver vase shaped like the Korean peninsula. Used primarily by the aristocracy as high-value currency, often involving state-sanctioned weight standards. Moving along to the Empire of Korea in the late 19th century, the 5-yen silver coin was introduced in 1892 as part of a modern monetary system based on the Spanish-American dollar standard. In modern times from 1951 to present, started making commemoratives. The first commemoratives came out in 1970. Comscoll released the 5 millennia history of the Korea set, featuring 6 silver and 6 gold proof coins. Modern bullion from the 2010s to now, Comscoll has gained global attention for high-quality themed silver series, such as the Chibu Qianwang and the Zixin Guardian series. Moving right along to last year, 2025, to mark the 80th anniversary of the Liberation, special silver proof coins with color were produced.